We are live. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name is Brian Morrison. I'm a full stack software developer and a developer educator at a company called Clerk. Clerk's a user management and authentication platform built to make adding auth into your application as quick and easy as possible. I also host the fullstack.chat podcast as well as the Discord community, which you can find at fullstack.chat. The podcast is circled around bringing on cool and interesting people in the tech space who are building things and trying to launch products to build their own financial success and grow as developers. Today, I am pleased to have Rishi on the podcast. Rishi is a technical writer as well as launcher of LaunchFast, which is a set of templates designed to also make getting applications built and launched as quickly as possible. So, Rishi, how are you today?
I'm great. I've slept a lot, so I'm full of energy and ready to chat.
That's fantastic. I'm working off of gratuitous amounts of caffeine right now. I probably need to get a little more sleep myself. Rishi, let's start with a quick icebreaker. If you had to pick, what would be your favorite meal that you eat on a fairly regular basis?
That would be bread paneer. So I'm a fan of eating paneer. So it's called, where do I post it? It's bread paneer, and it's rich in protein, but bread is not maybe the ideal food that people want to eat. But yeah, I'm a fan of it, and so I consume it with tea.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to look that up because I love foods from different cultures. I like eating new and interesting things, and that's a new one I haven't heard of. So I'll definitely give that a look.
Yep.
So, all right, let's get into the main part of the podcast, which is talking about LaunchFast and your experience of building LaunchFast. I gave it a quick intro, but you can probably do it way more justice than I have. So, can you tell our audience what LaunchFast is?
Sure. So LaunchFast is, as you said, correct, is a set of templates that allow you, more like a starter kits that allow you to have users on your platform that you're supposed to launch, and then be able to have them upload their own details, have blog pages, search in blog pages. So everything is done for you, so that you don't have any excuses for not launching soon, and just get started. So yeah. And it's in 3 templates. So it's right now with Astro framework, Next.js pages, and Svelte. And Astro is the one that I'm most excited about because I believe like LaunchFast is really unique there.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned Astro. I know Astro has kind of been named, I think, one of the most popular and quickly growing frameworks in the developer space today. And previous, and forgive me if I'm mistaken, but in our I guess introduction to this thing when we were talking before we went live, you had mentioned that Astro was kind of the first. Was that the first framework you tackled, was Astro, before branching out into some different frameworks?
Yeah, so I launched LaunchFast with just Astro because I was super excited about having that dynamic template in Astro, because people mostly see it as, hey, it's a static template for sites, blogs, but it can be dynamic too. And so I made the whole thing that I have in Next.js in Astro first, and then some parts moved over to Next.js and then on to Svelte. So yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. Now, I know you've shared also with me that you do some polls on a regular basis on Twitter. If you do you have any analytics on kind of what people are saying one of their favorite things about LaunchFast are or is?
So right now, I don't have that kind of data, but in the testimonials, I would say, or based on the number of purchases, the maximum right now is on Astro, and then the second one is Next.js, and then Svelte. Like I have very few purchases on Svelte because I need to do more marketing there, I believe. But yeah, apart from that, it's mostly Astro. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done a little work with Salt myself, and I think it's a really cool framework, but it hasn't quite caught on with like frameworks like Next or Astro has. So who knows? Maybe it'll get up there one day. So what is the experience if somebody purchases one of the starter kits and wants to launch a SaaS with it? Can you walk through what that kind of experience is and what people can expect right after they purchase it?
Sure. So when they purchase it, they would have to email me their GitHub username, and I will share the repository with them. The documentation is a work in progress because I've been making quite changes. So I need to ramp up that experience of just reading the documentation, get launched with it. Maybe I can present the template right now. Can I share that?
You should be able to. Yeah, there's a share button on the bottom of this this tool we're using.
Present and share screen. Cool. Let's do it. Do you see my screen?
Yes. One moment. Let's go ahead and add that to the stage. There you go.
Awesome. So when you purchase a boilerplate, you get access to the LaunchFast Next.js pages, for example, on GitHub, and then all that you have to do is more or less define envs. So you have to, if you're using Telegram bot, then you have to specify Telegram bot value. Similarly, for if you're using resend for emails or SMTP for emails, then you can define whichever variables you want, and then those will get picked up during the runtime. And then there are two ways to create or accept payments. That is through Stripe or that is through Lemon Squeezy. Lemon Squeezy ones would be in the browser itself. You don't need to set any environment variables. And for Stripe, you can have these two, which is secret key and webhook signature. The template also has the the API AI chat feature, so it relies on OpenAI configuration, OpenAI key for that for now. And then there are these two variables that you need to set, which allow your users to be able to reset your email and verify their email. So this is the endpoint from which their email will be sent to, and then they can click on the link that they received to verify or reset their password. Then there's also the ability to enable or disable search on the blog itself. It's using page find. That's a static blog engine. Even though the template is dynamic, at the build time, it crawls over the pages and then adds a search to your website. So you can just disable or enable based on the value here. And you can switch between any deployment platform. So by default, we are supporting Vercel, Amplify. There should be Fly.io as well. And so Netlify as well. And so you can just, go into deployment platform and just change the variable name to the platform that you're deploying to. And then there's really cool feature, which I've not seen probably in the boilerplates out there, is you can switch between Postgres and Redis by just saying, hey, database type is Redis or PG. If it's PG, then you specify the Postgres URL. If it's Redis, then you go ahead and specify your Redis URL. I launched with Upstash because it was so easy to get started. So I maintained that placeholder for now. Once you're done with this, you can just go ahead and do the build and have a preview local and then deploy. So it will be mostly defining the environment variables, I would say.
Yeah, that's super cool. And then beyond that, is it kind of just a matter of customizing the template, changing things like design and styles and adding pages and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Apart from that, you would see the API routes. So if I can just go deep into it, like you can update user info. You have Stripe checkouts, you have email methods, including verification endpoint, and similarly for auth using Next.auth for now. I'll soon be adding Clerk there, but yeah, that's there for now in the blog pages and some pages that you can customize yourself.
That's awesome. Now, what kind of inspired you to build this? I know there are a handful of different starter kits out kind of in there in the tech space, but yours is the one that I personally see pop up in my timeline quite frequently. Awesome. So. Where did the idea come from to start building something like this?
Yeah, I'll be super honest. So I saw Mark launch ShipFast, and that was for Next.js. So I was like, hey, what can I do for Astro? Because again, as I said earlier, it has to be like Astro can be dynamic, and I want to showcase that and help you launch your website with less JavaScript. So that's where the inspiration that was from Mark, and then I created an Astro boilerplate on top of that. Using the same, I would say, the idea, but then later on, I got more inspired from Superstarter to actually convert this into a kit where users can log in, users can edit their data. So if I can just walk you through the demo itself, you have a dashboard, and then you can, if you sign in, let me use my email quickly. So I do sign with Google. Let's say LaunchFast. And go to dashboard. So now you have these ability to change your name, delete your account. All of that flow is what you would expect in the starter kit to be there. There's blog search, and then you can upload images as well. Right now, I don't have a placeholder image to go through. So yeah.
That's awesome. Now, so this was inspired by another creator in our space who built something for Next.
Yeah.
Seeing I would imagine the success of that being part of the inspiration. What are some kind of unexpected things that you've encountered along the way that maybe you weren't expecting to run into? And that could be something like you hit a roadblock in a very specific part of the application, like adding one of the integrations. Perhaps maybe you added an integration that got less support than you were expecting to. Can you speak to some of the challenges there?
Yes. So apart from the technical challenges, as I said, it's inspired from another creator. So there were obviously some haters or negativity coming out online, and that was new for me because I was like, "Hey, I'm launching my own thing," and that came out as a copycat, and I was not. So I somehow learned to deal with it and just be present and showcase what I am building and not focus on the negative part. So um, that's like the first thing to all of the listeners out there is not to get demotivated. And just keep working on what you are building because you know that you are building it from scratch and doing things on your own. So that's first. In technical implementations, as I said, as I showcased earlier, is that blogs have searches. And so if you're developing on Next.js pages router, there's no ability for me to pick up the blogs that are being fetched, let's say from the CMS on the server side to do a search, and maintain the speed of the search. So for that, I switched to static rendering and then pulled page find on top of it. And there's another problem is that you cannot run page find, let's say during the build. So I have to do it after the build and inject it into the next output folder so that it gets picked up during the runtime. So that's another. That was for Next.js. With Astro, I would say it was pretty simple because I knew it by my hand and it was all, server-side rendering. I'm hitting API out, so that was easy. With SvelteKit, I had to learn the pattern of how authentication works because even though I knew how to use SvelteKit, I did not knew how to reuse the session on each request and then how to maintain the session state because let's say you logged on one screen on one tab, but then the other tab should be aware of that. And so how does that behave? So these are some of the technical challenges that came in. Another technical challenge, which is not in the template itself, is to maintain the documentation because if I'm building a great thing, I need to present it as a great thing. And so that is another roadblock I've been hitting into. I just need to have the time to update documentation to match what LaunchFast is actually offering you.
Yeah, I have my own little SaaS that I have unfortunately neglected, but one of the things that I realized very quickly is, hey, as I add and change things, this is like this whole other side of maintaining it. That is making sure people know how to use it, right? Because like we build these things and we kind of feel like it's natural because we're the one building it. And realistically, I mean, in my scenario, I was kind of building it for myself, so I had this ideal workflow and way of doing things. But yeah, documentation it's necessary, but it can be a challenge to keep up to date.
Agreed.
And I also wanted to comment, and this is more for the audience, but there isn't in all reality, like you Rishi had mentioned about being called a copycat and people giving you some flack for creating something that somebody else had done something very similarly. I mean, I'm a big believer that in truth, there aren't a whole lot of new technologies coming out that are really new or unique or interesting, right? A lot of things are rehashes or improvements on technologies that have been around for years. One obvious example of that is like Resend. Like I personally haven't used Resend, but email's been around for decades. Like, and email platforms have also been around for decades. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
so it's something to keep in mind. I like what you said about whatever you're building it with good intentions and you're building it for you to share with the world. So I think that that's a fantastic piece of advice that anyone watching this should definitely walk away from. Okay, so we're pretty much getting to the end of the questions that I have here. We're running through this thing pretty quickly. But if you had, and is there any other advice that you would want to give builders out there, people who are looking forward to getting into the space and creating things that they want to sell online?
For sure. I think I learned two things during this process is to market, and market. Like I can build the
Okay.
best thing, but I should not stop marketing, which I usually do. And I've been receiving motivation from my friends who are like, hey, this is great. And why don't you market it more? And so definitely market, learn through SEO. So I've been building a developer blog on LaunchFast, which talks about Astro, Next.js, and SvelteKit. I'm preparing Angular content as well. So that has really shot up the traffic that I get on LaunchFast, and it's like on it's happening on the site, and it's bringing good traffic and getting conversions. The conversions are not super high, but definitely marketing in terms of posting helpful blogs and helping people on Reddit. That's another, and somewhere injecting your what you're building inside when you're helping people on Reddit. So that's another form of marketing, I would say. And then the other is to launch, like not get stuck into creating that. It's a loop. I want to improve that. I want to improve this before I launch this, and there's no point in getting stuck there. Like what I'm offering for 75 is, if you had an engineer to build that, it's at least $300. So there's definitely, what you want to do is just launch first and then see if there's a demand for that and then build it out. So I've been following this process for since I launched LaunchFast, like, and I just launched it for Astro, and then there was a customer who was like, hey, can I have this in Next? Though I'm yet to make it, but yeah, I made it in Next, made it in Svelte, and yeah, that's a process that you should defer based on demand. If the demand is great, go ahead and do the thing. If it's not there, then move on to the next thing. Yeah, that's what.
Yes.
Two things that I've learned through the process.
Yeah, that quick feedback loop is important, because I mean, if you're building something, and this is realistically why there was a big. This is why I kind of pulled back on my SaaS a little bit, is because I sunk all this time into something that I thought was going to be fantastic, and it does have some traction. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's not. It didn't take off nearly like I expected it to, and I kind of went a little too too late into the process. That said, I also kind of consider it a passion project, and I eventually am going to get back to building it, but not quite yet. I want to talk. Actually, you had mentioned marketing, obviously, several times in a single line. So, what do you ever face backlash on pushing the product too much, or kind of mentioning it, or creating things around the product too much? And how do you address that if you do?
Oh, so by default, it's now. So the first that I've received negativity, I'm like, I'm gonna block this. There's no point in looking at it. So if somebody comes in and say, hey, you're marketing LaunchFast too much, I'm like, okay, what's next? And so I'm sort of stuck there. I'm sort of adamant in I'm creating something that is helpful. The people who have purchased it know it is helpful. I don't know who's to come in and say, hey, this is not helpful at all. So I'm focusing there. But in marketing on Reddit is like, I just put a link on Reddit and then disappear from there, because the comments on Reddit are super funny. They're like, hey, why are you marketing this if it's in the README? So that's some of the questions that I'm just stuck at. Like, the whole marketing thing is about amplifying what is out there so that more people discover it and then use it in their workflows. So I just approach it as, if I'm adding valuable content, it's great. If somebody says otherwise, I'm like, okay, feedback taken. If I feel it, I take it off. Though that's a rare thing to happen. So yeah, I would say that. And being a technical writer, there's always dearth of what can be, put out to people. So you can always bring in X concept and merge it with other things to talk about. So yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, I hope I answered your question and not went on to that.
You did, yeah. Reddit is you mentioned Reddit earlier, and that was the thing that kind of triggered the question in my mind, because Reddit could be particularly mean when it comes to trying to share things that you're building or whatnot.
Yes.
So that's why I wanted to know if you had any kind of insight or advice there. Ryan asks a really interesting question from the YouTube chat. What was was any one framework or technology particularly more difficult to work with, and why? Between the three, so you have Astro, Next, and Svelte are your three frameworks that you built around.
Got it. So I think adding blogs into Next.js pages was a learning for me. Like, I had to Google through several resources, go into Next.js issues, go into Next.js documentation, and then see how to actually use MDX with Shiki highlighting in Next.js pages for blogs. That was, I think, one of the tussle. Apart from that, I think I have just figured my mind into the terms of, there's this front end, it calls an API, it gets a result, and something goes after that. So I'm really separating the concerns there. So that's not a tussle from me. But yeah, specifically Next.js pages, router blogs was one of the problem I ran into during this.
Awesome. I had a question, I lost it, but I want to also bring up Mr. Anand from Twitter says, I heard somewhere promote your work shamelessly.
Oh,
I
I
think,
really do.
yeah, and I think you need to. I mean, social media is filled with so much noise from, people who are trying to share their own things, which, for better or worse, I mean, there's certainly some builders out there who may have, less than good intentions with what they're trying to do. But I think it's important for us to kind of break through that noise and try and show off what we have, because ultimately it's some of your well-being at the end of the day, right? I mean, I love the story about the individual developer who kind of broke off from the big corporation, built something himself, and now can support his family out of it. I mean, it's such a great story, and I think it's a dream that a lot of developers have who are in the builder space. So, okay. Well, I think we're out of questions. We've run through everything we wanted to talk about today. Is there anything else that you wanted to tell our audience? So, where can they find you? I know you're a technical writer. I shared a link to your blog in the chat and also put it on screen. So,
Yep.
rishi.app/blog is where you would go to find that. Anywhere else the audience can find you?
Yeah, I mean, on Rishi.app, you would see my Twitter, LinkedIn, Peerlist. Peerlist is another great platform from Indian builders. And so, yeah, I'm promoting them shamelessly again. So you can message me anywhere. The chat are open for any time. And you can, of course, mail me at contact@LaunchFast. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for willing to be on the show today. And thank you everyone out there who came on today to watch, to ask questions. If you know anybody who would be interested in this type of content, please share it with them. If you're looking to find me, I'm at BrianMMDev on Twitter. Actually, I'm BrianMMDev on pretty much all the platforms. And with that, we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.